Yo, this is a really cool technique that someone that makes videos under the name Idiotinium kind of came up with, which is using the spectral compressor here. This kind of plugin, you may have seen this about before. It's like pretty popular. There's like an AU5 video on it and stuff. To really extremely compress a spectrum, so this is gonna get loud, be warned, to kind of bring out really tiny artifacts. So a lot of synths kind of have really quiet bits of the sound near the ends of sounds or end of reverb tails, where really stuff starts sounding weird, stuff kind of falls apart. There's little bits of aliasing, little bits of kind of downsampling distortion, little bits of other kinds of distortion, and we kind of want to really bring out these super quiet parts of the sound because we want to make weird glitch music with them, or like weird glitch sounds or something. So the way we're gonna do this is we're gonna use like a spectral compressor, and we're just gonna turn up both upwards and downwards ratios to a ton, and like set our threshold. Maybe let's bring our threshold down a bit just to make this not get too loud, and then really gonna bring out these kind of really quiet parts of the sound that way. So we're gonna maybe just draw in a note here and simply gonna start with like the saw oscillator in Vital or something like that. Maybe see. Then let's also turn down attack and release. And bring the threshold up a bit. And then maybe let's, for example, get like a saw wave or something and see if we can like try finding some stuff like aliasing. Well, let's get a saw here. Maybe bring the release up. And we really want to squash this, so let's maybe threshold up, threshold center, threshold slope, bit flatter, mole pink noise, side channel link, window size quite high, attack and release fast, and maybe even stack these. No, we don't want any high frequency roll off, we just want this to be as kind of aggressive as possible, turn down all the knees and stuff. And we need to bring the threshold up. We can hear sort of near the ends of the sounds as well the interesting stuff happens. This can also happen with reverb or something. Let's make just a little impact here. We get these really weird sounds sometimes, so let's maybe just I'm just gonna loop this for a bit and play around with the synth, and you might be able to hear all these little artifacts without providing much commentary, just like from pitching this around, changing wavetable position, stuff like that. Let's maybe turn the sustain up and loop this here. Let's maybe do stuff like make a tiny little impulse here and loop this and send this into reverb and effects and stuff, and you'll be able to hear all these really weird, quiet, glitchy sounds. Or maybe get the chorus and give it tons of feedback here. Or change the reverb time. Or like, I don't know, get no, where did I? Get like Bitwig stock reverb. on like some kind of impulse sound, like a snare. Yeah, we get the snare here. And just put Bitwig's reverb on it and listen to what the really end of the tail sounds like using some extreme compression. And this is probably only going to work with feedback-based reverb. So let's listen here. We've got this impulse here. This is what the reverb sounds like without the extreme spectral compression. And really what we're interested in is the very end of this tail. So hear how it gets all weird and pitchy there? That's kind of what we want. You could also do this differently by just bouncing out this reverb here without the spectral compression. And actually let's bounce quite a bit of a longer thing here. And essentially what we're gonna do is we're just gonna take the latest part of the reverb and just add a ton of gain to this. So right now this looks like it's basically silence, but I think there's still a tiny bit of sound. Yeah, you can see here, there's still a little bit of sound in here, so bounce this in place, normalize it, bounce it in place, normalize it a bunch, and we can really bring out the really quiet bits that the developers don't really want us to hear. So let's listen to that kind of stuff. Almost sounds like some kind of a cymbal or something. Let's bring this out even more, just cut this stuff, focus on even quieter stuff. And just normalize this a ton. Bounce it in place, normalize it. Normalize has like a range limit in terms of how much it can turn up the sound, so you need to bounce it in place again and again. And actually see here it kind of ends here, so I guess it has some kind of a gate or something going on there at the very end, or it's simply a bit depth that's kind of exhausted, but this is like the very end of the reverb tail. Stuff you would never otherwise hear. Let's focus on this stuff. Make it even louder. Bounce it in place. Let me just remove this plugin here from my master. Normalize it, bounce it in place. Normalize it. And we get these weird things here. You can do this with a lot of other feedback-based effects. So let's maybe try it with delay plus or something like that. Put delay plus on here. Use, I don't know, the reverse mode. Turn it all the way up. Turn up the feedback quite a bit. I don't know. Just keep it like this. Put this on this original effect. And just bounce this out for like a really long time here. Nope, we'll need to, of course, have the track activated. And just try to find interesting, really quiet bits at the very end of the sound. So, I've got it. I guess it's, no, why is it not doing what I wanted to do? Let me just delay. Feedback up. Some kind of blur mode, like reverse here. Ah, we need some delay time, of course. And let's just bounce this out. Let's actually bounce it in place. And then really focus in on the quiet parts of this delay. So like after here maybe, or something like that. Normalize it. Bounce it in place. Normalize it. Nope. Bounce it in place, normalize it, bounce it in place, normalize it, bounce it in place. Go to maybe here. Normalize it, bounce it in place. Normalize it, bounce it in place. See here, there's something going on here. So like, you can see how we can see more and more of the end of the tail. Bounce it in place, normalize it, bounce it in place, normalize it. There's a lot more sound that's just super quiet, so we never get to hear it. Delete this bit. Normalize it. Bounce it in place. You know the drill. Wanna hear what this sounds like? Normalize it. Bounce it in place, normalize it. Basically trying to find the very end of this tail where sort of the depth reaches its limits. Yeah, I think we're getting there. Normalize it, bounce it in place. All that seems to be left at this point is some kind of tone here. Oh no, it keeps continuing actually. So yeah, this doesn't seem to get much more interesting, so let's maybe try something different here, where we kind of, this might be a bit longer, I just want to try some stuff now. So like, we've got the snare here. Hello? Let's put a delay on there, and then let's put some interesting stuff on the feedback loop maybe. So let's maybe try to find artifacts of like a spectral effect. Let's put transient split in here. And we're not even gonna do anything, we just want the artifacts of like the transient split being applied to the sound over and over again. Kind of listen for what it sounds like after we've applied this hundreds of times to this delayed sound. That would be kind of interesting, I think. So let's just really zoom out here and just bounce this in place. This is gonna take a while, of course, because that's quite long. See how it repeats again and again, and we're really interested in these later repetitions. And then, of course, delete this effect here, normalize it, bounce it in place, and listen for this now, and then maybe... So let's keep that, but then let's bounce this in place and try to normalize it a bunch, because this is like much later down the chain. Right now it looks like total silence, but I strongly suspect that this is actually not total silence. We'll have to see, I guess. Bounce it in place. Is it total silence? Maybe it is. Normalize it, bounce it in place. I have to repeat this a bunch. I guess it might actually be total silence, so let's listen to the end here. I guess cut this off, because here we can see it's not total silence. So let's bounce this in place and normalize it and stuff. Normalize. Bounce. Why is it not bouncing in place? Hello, is this a Bitwig bug or something? Drag it to a new track. Hello, bounce. Reverse content. Why are we not getting a bounce option here? I guess let's just do a different thing by just applying a ton of gain with tool. We can do that too, of course. We don't need bounce in place. Just turn it up this way and bounce this out to a new track. Maybe. This is getting a bit out of hand. Doesn't seem to be any sound arriving at the master here. So we definitely broke something, which is an achievement of sorts, I guess. I just really want to hear what these later parts of the sound like. Let's try a way of doing that. Put this on a new track, solo this. Maybe restart our audio engine. Now we've got a bounce back. There we go. You can see there's more to the sound here. It keeps going. Because these transient split effects, they do change the sound a tiny bit even when they're dry. They're not perfectly clean, and that's kind of what I'm interested in here. Let's get here. Normalize, bounce in place. Listen to this. Bounce it in place again. Normalize it, normalize it. Go even further. And then we can kind of compare this to the first few sounds, see if anything changed after just applying this transient thing here. Just bounce this in place. Yes, there we go. You can see this was really exponentially getting quieter. But it's not disappearing entirely, which is kind of the interesting part. And then let's maybe try this again with the feedback chain with something more interesting. So let's maybe compare these two sounds. So you can see transient split, relatively clean effect. Let's listen to the two. We've definitely lost a bunch of high frequencies, which is maybe just due to the delay. So let's maybe try this with some other sound and effect. So let's maybe get a snare again, just because I like snares, I'm sorry. And let's pick some different effect for just applying over and over again. So yeah, basically what we want is we want high feedback and then just apply something over and over again. Let's see what kind of, let's maybe try something like, try to find if Saturator has any interesting artifacts. Let's just saturate the sound over and over again. Just gonna keep default settings, kind of mostly listening for the stuff that's going on behind the scenes, not actually the effect of the saturation, so I don't actually want the saturating. So yeah, let's turn the drive all the way down. And then let's just bounce this for like a really, really long time, the longest time we can get. Something like this here, just to see what happens. Bounce it in place. And this is gonna take fucking ages. Why is it? Oh, I forgot to turn the feedback up, I'm really sorry. That's of course important, so let's just scroll out all the way and just basically listen for what happens after we apply this saturator. Over and over and over again. I think I may have broken Bitwig. Can we go all the way to the start somewhere? Let's just... Yeah, there we go. So we just want a really huge time selection. Okay, and then we're gonna bounce this, and I don't know where the pause button in my current OBS setup is, so you're gonna have to sit this out. Actually, maybe let me just... I'm gonna edit this. Yeah, let's be real. You don't want to see all of this. You can kind of see here different instances of the snare repeating again and again. Got it here. And if we zoom in, maybe... Sometimes we kind of see it, but this is gonna take ages. So, maybe we overshot a little bit there. So yeah, let's just bounce this and maybe apply this like 100 times or something like that. That should already be plenty. Just get something like this here. And bounce it to a new track, I think is probably better. With a ton of feedback, of course. You can see all these different snares here repeating. Once again, what we're interested in is less so these here and more what's happening at the very end here. So let's cut this here. Let's get a tool. Just turn the gain up a ton and see if we can get any sound out of this. Don't want to dither because otherwise I think it'll just kind of get lost in the dither noise. Might need to bounce this a few times. Maybe this is actually too late. So let's start with somewhere where we actually have some sound. So let's get like this here and try to get it normalized. By just bouncing it in place and normalizing. And see how these snares sound. First thing we notice, of course, is a lot of high frequency loss. That's just the delay. Really starting to hear the resonance of those delay filters here. See what this sounds like. Yeah, this isn't too interesting. Let's try something spectral again. Let's try MTransformer. Something like this, where we can really get the kind of spectral weirdness happening on the later beats. And then we just turn up delay time a ton. and bounce this out. This is gonna get interesting. We can see it kind of gets quieter here quite quickly at a certain point. That's something we'll be able to listen for, and then maybe see how far down the line we can actually still find some sound. We can immediately see, okay, we've got some pre-ringing here from the FFT stuff that we don't really, no, we don't really have that much in the originals now. So that's something kind of interesting. You can see this is kind of more and more blur into the same sort of continuous tone almost. So let's see. We're gonna cut this here, move this here, normalize bounce, normalize bounce, normalize bounce. It's gonna take ages because it's a really long clip. Yeah. You can really see these sounds kind of blurring together because there's just so much pre and post ringing from all the spectral stuff. So that's pretty interesting. So I guess we can keep that there and then really focus on sort of the quieter bits once again. Just take this one over here and try to kind of bounce this in place. Let's maybe listen to this one here in the meantime. What we've got here. Ah, we can't because it's bouncing. You can see here this just keeps going and going and really strange sound combinations. So yeah, what we've got here now is basically the first two iterations of the delay, and then just further and further down the line you can see how the sounds really blur together. So let's listen to these. This is how the delay kind of started. You can already hear some artifacts here. This is a bit further down the line. Really getting that weird spectral sound here. Let's go even further. Can really hear some weird tones kind of coming out. Listen to this one here. I don't know, maybe this is not really interesting to you. I find this really fascinating. Also, we can try some other stuff. Maybe let's try something like get tons and tons of aliasing. We may regret this. Aliasing is not a very beautiful sound. So let's get some kind of sine wave here at 100 Hertz. And just push this in here. And then what we want is a delay on this. with like some kind of thing that applies saturation to this over and over again. I'm gonna use Saturator, which uses some fancy anti-aliasing, which may have its own kind of artifacts, which may be interesting. Just kind of sort of a hard clipping type thing here. And just apply this over and over again. And just see what happens here. Let's zoom out. No, zoom out. Hello? What's going on? Make this much longer and just bounce this out. We Okay, so we need to turn the feedback up, of course. And let's just zoom out a ton. And bounce this. Sometimes these controls are not built for zooming out that far, I guess. Okay, let's bounce this out. Okay, so we've got our bounce here of our little beep sound, and let's just compare once again the first few, which have only been saturated a few times, and then the ones that will probably have tons and tons of aliasing, possibly, maybe. You will see, you can already see these are kind of blurring together here. That is to be expected. Let's just bring this one here and then get something at the very end here. In this case, they all stay loud, so we don't really need to bother with much normalizing. Just listen to them. So this is at the start. And this is much further down the line. And we can try this with all sorts of different saturations. They're gonna have different artifacts and stuff. I don't know, I find this stuff really interesting. You may find this really boring, but maybe you can find some new fun sounds using techniques like this. Who knows?